The Cold War: Causes, Consequences, and Cultural Impact. Chapter 1. Overview. What? The Cold War was a state of political and military tension between the Western Bloc, led by the United States and its allies, and the Eastern Bloc, led by the Soviet Union and its allies, that lasted from the end of World War II in 1945 until the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991. Although the two sides did not engage in direct military conflict, the Cold War was marked by a series of proxy wars, arms races, and diplomatic maneuvers. It was characterized by a fundamental ideological divide between capitalism and communism, with each side seeking to spread its influence around the world and undermine the other's political and economic system. The Cold War had a profound impact on global politics, economics, and society, and shaped the international order that exists to this day. When? The Cold War took place from the end of World War II in 1945 until the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991. The exact dates of the Cold War are often debated by historians, but it is generally accepted that the period of tension and hostility between the Western and Eastern blocs began shortly after World War II and lasted for several decades. During this time, the two superpowers engaged in a range of activities, including nuclear arms races, proxy wars, espionage, and propaganda campaigns. The Cold War had a significant impact on global politics and international relations, and its effects are still felt today. Who? The major players involved in the Cold War were the United States and the Soviet Union, which were the two superpowers of the post-World War II era. The United States was the leader of the Western Bloc, which included countries such as Western Europe, Japan, and Canada. The Soviet Union was the leader of the Eastern Bloc, which included countries in Eastern Europe and Asia, such as East Germany, Poland, and China. Other major players in the Cold War included their respective allies and proxies. The United States was supported by NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, which was formed in 1949 to counter the Soviet threat, as well as other allies such as South Korea and South Vietnam. The Soviet Union had its own alliances, such as the Warsaw Pact, which included countries in Eastern Europe. The Cold War was also characterized by proxy wars, where the United States and Soviet Union supported opposing sides in conflicts around the world, such as the Korean War, the Vietnam War, and the Soviet-Afghan War. The Cold War was a global struggle for power and influence between the United States and the Soviet Union, with many other countries and organizations playing significant roles in the conflict. Why? There were several causes of the Cold War, including ideological differences. The fundamental differences between the capitalist and communist ideologies of the United States and the Soviet Union were a major cause of the Cold War. The United States promoted democracy and free market capitalism, while the Soviet Union promoted communism and state-controlled economies. World War II. The tensions between the United States and the Soviet Union during the Cold War can be traced back to the aftermath of World War II. The two countries were allies during the war, but they had different goals and visions for the post-war world. Soviet expansionism. The Soviet Union sought to spread its influence and ideology to other countries around the world, particularly in Eastern Europe. This was seen as a threat to the Western Bloc and led to increased tensions. Nuclear arms race. The development of nuclear weapons by both the United States and the Soviet Union led to a dangerous arms race that contributed to the tensions of the Cold War. Fear and mistrust. The United States and the Soviet Union had a deep-seated fear and mistrust of each other, which was exacerbated by events such as the Cuban Missile Crisis and the construction of the Berlin Wall. The Cold War was a complex and multifaceted conflict with many different causes, including ideological differences, historical events, and geopolitical tensions. Summary. In this book, we discussed the Cold War and its impact on various aspects of society, including politics, economics, and culture. We talked about the causes and events that led to the Cold War, the impact of the conflict on international relations and global politics, and the changes that occurred in the world after its conclusion. We also explored the ongoing impact of the Cold War on current global politics and international relations. Overall, this book provided an overview of one of the most significant and complex conflicts in modern history and its lasting legacy on the world today. This is just one chapter in my book. If this content interests you, then you might want to get all the chapters under one book. I will leave a link in the description to pick it up at Amazon. I will include links for other books I have published too. Thank you for your interest.